Hello, hello, I'm Kads, and welcome back to the Free-to-Play review. So today's topic is going to be the latest iteration of the Deck of Fate, specifically the Anniversary Deck of Fate, because we are celebrating Plarium's 15th anniversary as a game studio, game developer, however you want to call it. And it is a combination of Behind My Head, Dungeon Divers, and a Summon Rush. So the main appeal here, of course, is that it is a true 2x on Primal Shards, meaning that you have double chances on Epics, Legendaries, and Mythicals, meaning it is the best time to pull Primals. But that is the primary mechanism for getting your card flips. However, you can supplement them with running some dungeons or running campaign just to get a handful of flips. You can see here just from running campaign, because there is a champion training event that I'm working on right now. We'll get to that a bit later, but you can see I have 300-ish points, which is a third of one flip, 1,000 points to flip, 40 cards in the deck. Now, even though I do say this every single time, I always want to get it out there that Decks of Fate are not my favorite type of event, because I don't like rewards, regardless of how good they are, being locked behind RNG, because the only way that you can guarantee that you get everything here is if you flip all the cards, which can be relatively hard to do depending on what the events are. And in this case, unless you have a bunch of Primals, which is again the best thing to pull, you could pull any shard, technically speaking, but most efficiently would be using Primals. Unless you have enough to do the entire deck, you're not going to be guaranteed to get any of the juicy goodies, but nonetheless, you can still get some flips here and there and get some decent stuff along the way. So the main appeal of this particular Deck of Fate, as you can see here, is a bunch of reaction banners. This is the first time that it's been featured in anything basically outside of CVC. And honestly, in CVC, banners are relatively hard to get, because that means you typically have to be like in the third or the fourth tier of like smashing your opponents to be able to get the banners. Usually you walk away with like rings and amulets if you win like the first two sections, but you have to completely dominate the enemy to really, most of the time, get access to reaction banners. So they're honestly quite rare unless you're just dominating every single CVC that features these. So this could be a good pickup, again, if you just happen to get some flips along the way over the next 3 days. And or if you have some Primals to pull, you can get some pretty good banners. There are 15 banners overall across different rarities here. You can see some Epics, some Legendaries, and a few Mythicals. And there's 15, one for each of the factions, but also one for each year that they're celebrating for Plarium's anniversary. On top of that, there's also some Soul Coins, couple Legendary Tomes, Mythical Chaos Ore. So pretty decent stuff. 300 gems, pretty nice too. No energy, unfortunately. Some Chaos Ore, but pretty decent rewards. But again, the main appeal here is all of the banners. The distribution of the cards is as such. 17 of them are common, 13 are rare, and 10 are epic. And for those who aren't familiar with how these Decks of Fate work, if you happen to get 3 in a row, 3 of a kind of those rarities, then you have a chance to roll on these respective tables to get some bonus rewards. I wouldn't expect on it, or I wouldn't bank on it happening, but it is quite likely that you will, across multiple Decks of Fate, you'll get a handful of 3 commons in a row. So as we mentioned earlier, this is a combination of Dungeon Divers and a Summon Rush, and you can see the respective points there. It's worth noting that the amount for Dungeon Divers has increased slightly relative to previous iterations of this, so you just get a little bit more bang for your buck for doing the same thing. And it's also worth noting that the amounts for the shards has also increased ever so slightly for each of the shard types. I think, for example, Primals used to be like 650, Voids used to be like 350 or 300, Sacreds used to be 2000, so 2200, so it's a little bit powerful, a little bit more powerful. That's not to say that this is going to be the structure from here on out, but nonetheless, it is worth acknowledging for this particular iteration, it is a bit better in terms of how many shards it's going to take you to max out the deck, which is a beautiful segue to hop over to the spreadsheet, which will be linked in the description box down below if you guys want to check it out for yourselves. And as always, we do have here on the left hand side the Dungeon Divers elements, the breakdown there. If you're running the campaign, you will get less than 1 average currency per energy, and it's a lot more bang for your buck to do this in terms of dungeons, as you'd expect. And so you get slightly over 1, anywhere between 1 and about 1.2 depending on your respective stage. But as you might suspect, doing the entire thing with Dungeon Divers is completely impractical for majority of players, and the primary mechanism once again for doing this is going to be pulling shards. So for that, we have this nifty little breakdown here on the right hand side where we have each of the shard types, each of the amount of currency you will get, and then if you wanted to flip the entire deck, how many shards of each type you would need in order to do that. Of course, you can mix and match in between the shard types as we mentioned earlier, but if you wanted to do it purely with each individual type, that's how many it would cost. So 19 Sacreds, 45 Primals, 107 Voids, 267 Ancients, or or if you're crazy, 40,000 mystery shards. So in this case, I wouldn't recommend that you would try to max out the deck. I think that's probably unattainable unless you've been sitting on primals for a very, very long time. Because again, it's only 2x on primals, meaning it's less efficient to pull the other shard types, but you are free to do whatever you feel is the right thing to do for yourself. But I would just recommend pull the primals that you have, because the true 2x's don't come around as often as the regular 2x's for the other shard types. And true 2x, again, meaning that there's actually 2x mythicals and legendaries and epics from the primals. And so in between these, you do have time to sit on your primals and collect them up. And so you can do a big session when it's a true 2x, and you're not going to feel too bad. Although I do know that some people like to use primals for like fusion summon rushes and stuff like that. I don't, but nonetheless, that is what some people choose to do. And then of course you can also run the campaign or run a dungeon. I think there's a dragon tournament going on right now, which is not the worst thing in the world to do, because I think it's a 3x on speed gear. So could be a good time to be running dragon, but there's also a champion training tournament going on, which might be incentivizing you to run campaign. Again, either way, you're going to get some points over the course of the next 3 days to offset however many shards you plan to pull. In my particular case, I will be pulling my shards, not today, not in this video, but we will be doing it probably either later tonight, at least at the time of this recording, or tomorrow, because I'm waiting to get this node here for whenever it loads from the champion training tournament, because it's 6350 here, because it does have 50 more primal quartz. And if we hop over to the portal real quick, you can see here that we are at 19 and then 80 quartz towards another shard. So we could have a nice flat and even 20 primals to pull once I get to that node. So we are going to hold off for a day. There's no rush in order for me to do this today. So I can wait a day and just continue on with champion training with the energy I'm going to get after reset. So stay tuned for that video coming soon, either again later today or tomorrow. And we will see if we are still the mythical whisperer. And if you don't know what that means, feel free to check out the video in the card above, where we got some crazy luck on the last iteration of a true 2x on primals. So that's going to do it for the free-to-play review of the anniversary deck of fate. Let me know in the comment section down below how many primals you have, how many you're willing to pull for this event, and of course if you were able to pull a mythical from your summons. I guess it's also worth noting that in celebration of the 15th anniversary, they did give us a free gift in the shop. We can find it here, 15th anniversary, there we go, which means that everyone does have at least one free shot at a legendary or mythical champion, so that is pretty nice. Mythical tome as well, some energy on top, and an immortal soulstone. I am happy that they provided the primal shard on the first day, just in case people are really antsy to pull as soon as the event goes live, and so they can use their shard if they so choose. But I do also understand that some people would probably prefer a sacred shard because it is a bit more powerful in the near term, and they probably would also prefer a legendary tome over a mythical, just because most people probably don't have a mythical champion, so the mythical tomes are not as valuable. I happen to be in the end game, so both of these are probably more valuable than a sacred. I probably would prefer a sacred over a primal personally, but a mythical tome for me is actually very advantageous because I do have a handful of mythicals to use. But anyways, let's not go off on a tangent here. That is going to do it for the video. So thanks for watching and have a good one.